October 12, 1968. Johnny Cash was taken into custody at a small-town police station in Tennessee. He was alone, exhausted, and facing charges that could derail his career. Then the phone rang at the station. Elvis Presley was on the line, and what he said next didn't just get Johnny out of jail, it shifted the course of both their lives forever. 1968 was a year of profound change for both icons. Elvis had just wrapped his comeback special, set to air in December, reintroducing the world to the king after years of formulaic films and a sense that he'd drifted from his roots. Johnny Cash, meanwhile, was in an even deeper struggle. His marriage was crumbling, he was battling heavy reliance on prescription meds to endure endless touring, and his career felt like it was teetering on the edge. He was still creating, still performing, but the personal cost was crushing him. The two had history going back to their early days at Sun Records in Memphis, young talents sharing stages, late nights, and the raw pressures of sudden fame. They'd bonded over music and the grind that came with it. On this October evening, Johnny had been driving through a quiet Tennessee town after a long Nashville session. Weeks on the road had left him drained, barely sleeping, his prescribed pills blurring the edges of focus. When police stopped him for erratic driving and discovered the medication without immediate proof of prescription, the officers, eager and perhaps starstruck, saw a chance to make an example of the famous Johnny Cash. In the dim holding cell of that small station, Johnny sat with his head down. He'd been detained before, but this felt heavier, like a breaking point. The place was hushed on that Saturday night, just a couple of officers and the desk sergeant handling routine paperwork. Johnny had made his one call to his manager, but help was far off. Then, roughly 2 hours later, the phone rang. The sergeant picked up, sounding routine at first, but his posture changed instantly. "Yes, sir?" "Yes, he's here." "Who's calling?" A pause, then his eyes widened. "Yes, Mr. Presley. I'll tell him you're on your way." Johnny caught the name through his haze. Elvis. Elvis was coming, but how? Why? What Johnny didn't realize was that Elvis had been in Nashville that same day for his own work, though their paths hadn't crossed. Word traveled fast in music circles, and when Elvis heard about the arrest, he didn't hesitate. He got in his car, called the station ahead to confirm the situation, and headed straight there. The wait dragged on. Johnny wrestled with shame at the thought of Elvis seeing him like this, mixed with a flicker of hope. When Elvis arrived about 45 minutes later, the small station transformed. Dressed low-key in jeans and a jacket, he still commanded the room without trying. The officers snapped to attention, suddenly professional. Elvis went straight to the desk. "I'm here for Johnny Cash," he said, calmly, firmly. "What are the charges?" The sergeant outlined them: possession of prescription meds without documentation, erratic driving, possible impairment. Elvis listened, then asked pointedly if Johnny had been allowed to verify the prescriptions. When told not fully yet, Elvis pressed gently but steadily. He explained Johnny's brutal schedule, the exhaustion, how the pills were doctor-prescribed to cope. "Check with his doctor. You'll see it's legitimate." Then he addressed the driving. No accident, no harm done. This is a man who's been stretched too thin by an industry that takes everything and gives little back. He needs support, not a record that ends him. Elvis paused, his tone softening but intense. "I've been in similar places, pushed to the limit, chasing what everyone expects, losing pieces of myself along the way. The only difference between Johnny in that cell and me standing here is timing and a bit of fortune." The sergeant was listening closely now. Elvis continued, "Let me take responsibility. I'll get him home safe, make sure he gets real help, and guarantee he'll handle any court obligations. You have my word." The sergeant waited. After hushed talks among the officers, calls to a judge, who knew exactly who Elvis was and trusted his assurance, they arranged release on bail. Elvis covered it. With prescriptions verified and Elvis vouching, the charges stood a strong chance of being dropped or minimized. When Johnny stepped out of the cell and saw Elvis waiting, words failed him. He just stared at the friend who'd driven through the night and risked his own standing to show up. "Come on," Elvis said quietly. "Let's go." They left Johnny's car for later pickup and drove in Elvis's vehicle. Silence filled the first 20 minutes under a starry sky. Then Elvis pulled into a quiet roadside spot. "We need to talk." Johnny nodded, voice barely there. Elvis spoke directly. "What happened tonight doesn't define you. You're fighting hard battles, but you're more than this low point. I've seen your heart, your gift, how your music reaches people. You can't keep running on empty. Those pills, the endless road, it'll take everything." Johnny admitted quietly, "I don't know how to stop. If I slow down, I might lose it all." Elvis replied firmly, "If you don't, you'll lose yourself, and that's the bigger loss." He shared his own struggles, how he'd felt trapped by expectations, how his comeback was about rediscovering the real reason for the music, connection, authenticity, not just fame. They talked for over an hour about the old Sundays, the weight of success, the fear of fading. Two legends who'd risen together, paid heavy prices, now reminding each other what truly mattered. When Elvis finally dropped Johnny home, he said one last thing. "This doesn't define you. What you choose next does. Whatever path you take, I'm here. If you need to talk, need help, need someone who gets it, call anytime." Johnny's voice cracked with gratitude. "Thank you for tonight, for everything." Elvis smiled simply. "That's what friends do." The charges were later dropped once prescriptions and references, some arranged with Elvis's help, came through. But the night's true power wasn't legal, it was personal. For Johnny, that arrest and Elvis's intervention marked a pivot. It wasn't overnight magic, but it sparked real change, facing his demons, rebuilding, rediscovering purpose. In later years, Johnny occasionally referenced a friend who stepped in at his lowest, saying a single bad night doesn't have to ruin a life. Elvis, ever private, never spoke of it publicly, only their Sun Records bond and mutual respect. But those close to them knew. Elvis didn't just pay bail, he showed up, believed in Johnny when Johnny couldn't, and reminded him he was worth fighting for. This tale of friendship in the shadows, of second chances and quiet loyalty, shows that real support arrives in the hardest moments. It's not about spotlight, it's about being there, seeing someone's value beyond their struggle, and helping them see it too. Elvis could have stayed away, protected his image. Instead, he chose to act, to see Johnny as the man and artist he knew, not the one in trouble. And Johnny took that support, turned it into strength, and built a legacy that endures. If this story of friendship, redemption, and showing up when it counts touched you, subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who might need to hear that their toughest moment isn't the end. Have you ever had a friend step up when you were at your lowest? Drop it in the comments.